Over to you, Joy.
Oh, we're not going to see Commissioner Buchanan. Okay.
Oh, are you,
Oh,
don't
are you
have
not on there?
Yeah, I don't have the green light. I don't know if that's,
If you go ahead and start, I'll get her logged in.
okay.
Sorry about that.
Joy, if you want to go ahead and start while we get
And
Commissioner
then
Buchanan logged in.
okay, great. That sounds great. Thank you, everyone, for your patience when the previous session was running long today. So we are going to call to order the September 18th HRC meeting. Avery, would you please give us preliminary information about the meeting?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Just a couple reminders for this meeting. Please silence your cell phones to minimize distractions during the meeting. When the chair calls for public comment, please approach the podium to indicate you wish to speak. For those attending online, you should use the raise your hand function to indicate you wish to provide public comment. Once your name is called, please unmute and turn on your camera to provide your comments. The primary format for accessing or participating in this meeting is in person at City Hall. Virtual access to view or participate in the meeting cannot be guaranteed. The chat function will not be monitored at tonight's meeting. If you have trouble viewing the meeting, you can view it on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. And with that, I'll turn the meeting back over to the chair.
Thank you. Now we'll take a roll call vote of commissioners. Commissioner Buchanan. Commissioner Hernley.
Here.
Commissioner Klein.
Here.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Here.
And Commissioner Dearborn.
Here.
Thank you. We're all present. We still have one open seat. If anyone out there listening would like to put your name in the hat. All right, moving into the agenda items. Item A, communications. Have we received communications from other commissions, State Historic Preservation Office, or the general public this month?
We have no communications for this evening.
And commissioners, do you have any disclosures of ex parte communications in the last month?
Commissioner Cunningham, I need to disclose ex parte communications with some of the neighbors of the 700 New Hampshire project. I know it's something that we've discussed in previous meetings, but still want to acknowledge that.
Thank you. Any declarations of abstentions for specific agenda items by commissioners this month?
So Commissioner Hernley, I'm going to abstain on the consent agenda. We have a project from our office, and I'll just not vote on that.
Thank you. And under committee reports, I know we have an ARC, 3 ARC committee reports for 3 different projects. Do we have any other committee reports this month?
We do. We actually are almost to the end of at least the committee part of the project for the Rice and Dowdale markers, and our hope is that we can get those on your October agenda. If we can't make it for October, it will definitely be November. So, and I think the best way to handle the committee reports for the 3 ARC projects, since they are your 3 public hearing items this evening, would be for the ARC members to give a synopsis of that meeting during that agenda item, so it's all included together.
Understood. That sounds good. Okay, the second agenda item is item B, consent agenda. I'd like to take or hear a motion.
Commissioner Klein, I would move that we approve the attached design review applications, which have been administratively reviewed and approved by staff.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Klein and Commissioner Buchanan. We'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Buchanan?
Aye.
Commissioner Dearborn?
Aye.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Aye.
Commissioner Klein?
Aye.
and Chair Coleman is an aye, and Commissioner Hernley is abstaining. So motion carries. Moving on to the third agenda item, public comment. If there is anyone in the audience tonight or on Zoom who wishes to address the commission about items that are not on the agenda tonight, now would be the time.
Dennis?
Yes. Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Dennis Brown, a longtime board member of the Lawrence Preservation Alliance. And we have a lot of great public programming coming up that I'd like to talk with you about just for a couple minutes. Next Wednesday on September 24th, 6:30 p.m. at Lawrence High School Commons, LPA will host an informational panel as part of the public engagement process for the University Place Historic Survey. The panel includes Commissioner Hernley. The Hernley firm is the contractor conducting the survey, and LPA President Mike Delaney will serve as moderator. Discussion will cover basic items like what constitutes a historic district, what is a contributing property, what historic listing means, and what are the cultural and financial benefits of listing. While specific to the University Place neighborhood, anyone interested in learning more about these subjects is welcome to attend, and it's free. On Sunday, October 12th, and again on November 2nd, 1:30 p.m., the second LPA NAACP Black History Walking Tour will be presented in the Pinckney neighborhood. Our group did a previous walking tour 2 years ago in a southern area of East Lawrence. We're very excited to present this tour. One of our tour leaders is Commissioner Klein. Tickets are $10, limit of 25 people a tour. There's 2 tours. Visit lawrencepreservation.org for more information and a link to the ticket site. Finally, on Sunday, October 26, 1:30 p.m., LPA will hold its annual membership meeting at the Union Pacific Depot. LPA has over 200 individual and family memberships who support us annually, and we're in our 41st year serving Lawrence. One item we are excited to hear about is this survey of the NAACP Lawrence Branch founder homes in 1921 that LPA is conducting using an HPF grant and LPA matching funds. That survey is wrapping up, and we will be listening to recommendations and talking about next steps. KU architecture professor Amy Vanderriet, an LPA board member, has done an excellent job leading this effort, which also provided some summer employment to several KU School of Architecture students.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis and LPA. Any other comments? No? Okay, moving on to Part B, public hearing items. The first one is HRC 250011.
I'm getting there. I'm just a little slow.
No problem.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator for the city. This meeting tonight is a little bit unique because we don't have any new applications for public hearing items, but we do have 3 applications that you've heard at your last 2 meetings that had to go to the Architectural Review Committee for a little bit of design refinement, and then bringing those back to you this evening evening with some comments from the Architectural Review Committee, some redesign options from the property owners and applicants, and I'm happy to say that I think we had some really good ARC meetings and responses to those challenges that we were all struggling with when these projects came before you last month and the month before. So your agenda says that the first one of these is the new doctor's building at 1005 West 6th Street. If you recall, this is a certificate of approval because the property is located in the context of the Winter S. McCurdy House and also the original Clinton Park on 6th Street. And I'm going to go pretty fast through the stuff that we covered at your previous meeting, but when we get to discussion, if you want to go back and look at photos, we can certainly do that. This is the property site. I think most everyone is pretty familiar with it. This is Alabama Street, and then the Old West Lawrence District is on the eastern side of that. And not really showing on this photo is the Credit Union building, which is a little bit modern, mid-century kind of modern in style. This shows the property location here at 1005. 909 is the McCurdy House, and then across 6th Street is the designated portion of Clinton Park. Just quickly, here's the McCurdy House. And then my favorite steps at Clinton Park. The site plan, or I will say the majority of the things on the site plan did not change through the ARC review for this property. They are pretty hemmed in to where they have to be on the site because of the Lawrence Development Code. And so the size of the building hasn't changed, and the parking layout hasn't changed. But we did talk about several other items that the ARC was of the opinion helped bring the design of the structure, basically just the exterior skin, into a more compatible structure for the context areas. These are a little small, but they're all in your packet, but I wanted to try to get them all on one screen so you could kind of see the evolution and what's going on. When the applicant replied to the design ideas that the Architectural Review Committee had, they also submitted an alternate design, which in your packet is called Option 1, of what the property owner what their desire is. And so we have all three of those here. On the top, you'll see that that was the original submission. And then after the ARC meeting, the one in the middle is the property owner's preference. And then at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a drawing that references the things that the Architectural Review Committee thought were important. I'll let Stan and Joy talk about this in a little bit, but just wanted to quickly point out a few things that you can notice in the changes of these designs. The first one being that there were a lot of building materials being used on the original design. And typically when you're trying to be compatible with a historic district or a historic structure, you want to try to limit the material palette to make more connection with the historic properties and be a little bit more simple so that you're not overpowering the historic district, or in this case, the listed properties. And so you'll see on the original submission, they did have some of the stone. They had a smooth face stone. They also had a horizontal lap siding and more stone on this elevation. So after the ARC review, one of the things that we talked about at the ARC was moving the entrance from the south elevation, this is at the south elevation, to the east elevation because of the design guideline that talks about sense of entry. In almost all historic structures and in things that you see in their context, the primary entrance is almost always facing a public street or the public right-of-way. So the ARC thought that this was, and that was mentioned in the staff report that you looked at a couple of months ago. And so the designs here show the option of leaving the entrance facing the parking lot to the south, changing some of the design materials so that it was just one material, and it was the horizontal lap siding, which is typical for residential structures in the context area. The ARC version that responded to the comments from the Architectural Review Committee moved the door to the east elevation, and there was not a door on the south elevation. One of the other things the ARC talked about was having this stone level, all 4 elevations of the building all the way around, like a faux water table, and it helps to give the structure a base and a section and a roof. And so you'll notice that in all 4 elevations for what we'll call the option 2 or the ARC preferred revision. One of the things that we haven't had a chance to sketch with and work on with the architect is one of the ARC members was looking at possible design options that would have kind of a corner entrance where you could enter from both Alabama Street on the east and also from the parking garage. So that's still something that hasn't been totally explored, but it was talked a little bit about at that ARC meeting. This is showing that east elevation that fronts Alabama Street, and so you'll see there was quite a bit of stone on this side, what we'll call rubble stone, but then it also had the smooth face stone and then some more of the rubble stone. The applicant's preferred addition does continue to have the rubble stone under the windows on the tower piece. They did change this section of the building to the horizontal lap siding to be more compatible with the context area. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the ARC preferred version, where again that stone is, I think it's about 3 to 4 feet high, that goes all the way around the building for continuity, and it doesn't go high to all the way underneath the windows like the second version. And it does have that door facing the primary roadway, which is one of the considerations for design guideline in Chapter 22. This is the north elevation, so this is what will face 6th Street. The original application did have this stone going all up to the small window sections that were across this elevation. And then after discussions with the ARC, the applicant's preference would be just to change the end section to the horizontal lap siding, but maintain the high wall of rubble stone all the way up to the windows. On the bottom, you'll see the ARC's preference where there's a section under the windows, and then in that end section that all becomes lap siding, and then that same height bulkhead rubble stone section at the bottom of the building. One of the things that we did discuss that don't show up on this that I don't think are primary to the approval of this project, but was looking at taking these three windows. If you notice, they're done in sections of 3. Those are actually the rooms that the doctors will see patient in, so they're very concerned about privacy and not having anybody, walk off the sidewalk and take a look in. So one of the things that we discussed was that these windows could actually be a little taller, and then they could use other options like opaque window film to keep anyone from seeing in the building. One of the reasons we talked about that is I hope this doctor's office is here for a very long time and they're super successful. But in the future, if this were to change use and you had those taller windows on this elevation, that would help it achieve a change in use. This is the west elevation, which will face the credit union building, and you will actually be able to see quite a bit of it because of the location of the credit union on their site and where this building will be on site. And so again, at the top you see the use of the rubble stone all the way to the top. It did actually have lap siding on this elevation, but then the stone came up higher on the side of the building. The applicant's preference for this elevation is to take that all to lap siding and have a very simplistic elevation, since it's not on a public right-of-way, it's on a side setback, and there won't be a lot of visibility to it. And what you will notice is that it's the horizontal lap siding, which is compatible with the context area. On the bottom, you'll see, again, that the ARC was still thinking that, when we're working with historic infill and looking at designs for historic properties, we like to call it four-sided architecture because you want a little bit of detailing on all four sides, because historically most buildings were built that way if those sides were visual. And so the ARC was looking at continuing that water table with that rough stone, even on this west side that's not highly visible from the street. So after looking at all this, and I really appreciate the applicants have been so helpful going through the ARC and trying to accommodate the design options that the ARC was talking about. Staff in the ARC looked at the options that the applicant submitted and determined that option 2, which was that third option I just showed you, what probably met the standards and the design guidelines the best of all of the proposals, and that it would meet the intent of Chapter 22 standards and guidelines. Because there's still a few little things that might be tweaked, but that would not change the overall character of the structure, staff is proposing that you condition the approval to allow staff to work with the owner and the applicant on final building materials. And then if we need to make some adjustments, like for example, if we could work out a way to make those windows on the north elevation be longer, or if they decided to do a corner entrance, which would help get their patients from the parking lot into the building, but also meet that design guideline for having the main entrance on a primary elevation. So staff is proposing that you find the proposed project option 2, which I've been referring to as the Architectural Review Committee preference, and determine that it meets the standards of review in Chapter 22, the design standards in Section 22.507 and 508, and issue the certificate of approval for the proposed project with the condition that the Historic Resources Administrator can approve small design changes of materials and windows, and the change of the entrance to the double entrance and the corner tower element if the applicant desires that change. And sometimes the HRC has felt more comfortable giving that condition of final approval to the ARC, and sometimes it's to the HRA. And in this case, I think the ARC has made really clear what they think those other changes could be, and staff has a really good understanding of the latitude that I would have to make any changes to the final design before building permits. As always, when staff gets those and they don't meet the standards or they cause an impact that could potentially make something else come out of compliance, then that comes back to the full HRC. Staff does not approve those conditions administratively. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Lynn?
I have a question about, just to clarify, where's the parking lot? Is it on the south side or the east side or the southeast side?
It's south. It's
South side.
behind the building, which is the front of the building.
So does the applicant prefer the south side where the parking lot is? I mean, in terms of facing the parking lot, or?
Yes.
Okay, versus the east, which is what ARC is asking for.
Correct.
And why is ARC asking for east again instead of south?
Because there's a design guideline in Chapter 22 that talks about sense of entry, and your primary entrance should follow the patterns in the context area, and almost every structure in that context area, the primary entrance faces the public right-of-way and not a parking lot.
Well, because houses don't have parking lots. They have a parking place next to the front entrance, usually.
Well,
in that neighborhood, right?
Most of the structures in the context area even have parking off the alley, either in a parking tray or a garage. So the parking in the context area is almost always behind the building and does not face the front of the building.
Okay, because for me, it just, in my head, sounds like that the entrance should be facing the parking lot on the south side. I mean, I don't know how big of a deal that is, but it just kind of makes common sense to me, and I'm not quite understanding which context areas, like which context is it on 6th Street that have east side entrances, or is it the houses on Alabama that have east side entrances? I'm confused about which context we're talking about.
The houses in the context area that face 6th Street, which is their front, have their entrances on the north elevation, which faces 6th Street. The houses that face Alabama have their entrances on the west elevation that faces Alabama Street. So historically, properties had their primary entrance facing the public right-of-way, not a parking lot. Parking lots in front of buildings or facing the primary entrance of a building came about more when we started suburban development in the late 50s and early 60s.
So I've got a question about the parking as well. Is there a potential to move the structure where the parking is and the parking towards the front? So then that way the primary entrance would be on that north elevation to be more consistent with everything else on 6th Street?
One of the challenges for this property is they also have to meet the standards of the Land Development Code.
Right.
And so the location of the structure with the parking to the rear is what meets the Land Development Code.
Got it.
So typically you would consider that 6th Street elevation as the primary entrance from the primary street. But you can also have a primary entrance on a corner building on the street that goes along the side.
I'm with Commissioner Klein, like, it's a doctor's office, and having people go to the east, like, I have family, and getting them to the doctor is an event.
Right.
So I'm really torn. I think the usability of the structure is what's going to allow it to be successful for years in the future.
And I think that's something the Historic Resources Commission can discuss during your deliberations.
Okay.
Yes. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Would you like to say something?
You want to come up?
Yeah, he's
Well,
here.
I'm Fred Schneider, and I'm the architect representing this project. The building basically is on all 4 sides maxed out. We cannot go, we're on setback lines all the way through. We feel that a direct access from the parking lot into the building is a must. You see it down on, if you go down to Main Street on 6th and Main, there's a large medical building on the corner. Where do they have their entrances? In the back, where you can drive right up to the front door.
Mm-hmm.
We have a nurse here that works with the doctors. She tells us they have a 90-year-old lady in a wheelchair. Now, how am I going to get her into this building if I have to go around, have north wind blowing, and get this, because of the development code, I can't put a roof over this entry because it has more of a soffit of 2 feet. Here again, if I try to flip this around, I was asked to change the floor plan and put the entrance on the east and put the toilet that is at that location. Now we have a toilet across a sitting area where you have, let's say you have to get a urine sample.
Yeah.
You walk into the lab, you get your cup, you have to walk completely 20 feet across where everybody's sitting, waiting to see a doctor, come back, put this, the whole idea is to put the lab and the toilet next to one another. If we put this entrance in the east side of the building, that destroys it. I can't get a permit anymore because I don't have a restroom. If I move the restroom, it's just not compatible. And if I just leave it the way it is and we fake a second entry, I can put a fake door on there, lock it, and then paint it black. But right behind the door is going to be a toilet. So this makes no sense. I'm dumbfounded about this design element. The rest of it, we've worked through this. We've taken all the stone off. I've tried to think. Here again, we're taken back from the fact that if you only come up 2 feet with stone around the whole building, it's starting to look like an old house in Old West Lawrence. They have all the lap siding and everything, and I think this is what's in the minds of the people that the Architecture Review Committee that we spoke with. They're trying to make it look like an old building. We just don't accept that. It's, here again, if you look at the north side, I've got stone going up 6 feet. They want it around 4 or 5, so somebody could put their head and look into the building. We can't have that. We have to have at least 6 feet of stone. Anyway, it's just simply, we think it's straightforward. And I think if we could just solve this idea about this door on the east side, here again, this is not a residential building. It is a primary care building for doctors. And I just don't see the power or the reasoning for having an entrance on the north side. The only way I could maybe pass this thing is to put a fake door on it. Other than that, I agree with basically all the rest of the stuff that they've spoken with. We basically have met the 9 elements that are in the development code, and I don't know. That's where I'm at, though, so we're here to just hopefully, Doug Compton's going to say something, so I hope that you can understand that we really want the south entry. Okay,
Thank you.
My name is Doug Compton, one of the owners of the project. I would agree with what Fred said. We would ask that the entrance be left on the south side for all the reasons we've already discussed, and I don't want to rehash those. Putting it on the east side makes no sense. The floor plan, the way Fred Schneider has it laid out, is exactly how it works from a medical standpoint. You know, I'm not going to argue where the lap siding is going to be or how much stone they want. I'm not going to argue that. But the entrance, I am going to argue. It needs to be on the south side of the building. The patients park on the south side of the building, and that's where it needs to be. So I would ask that you go along with the plan that Fred has submitted, which this has been 2.5 years in the process. 3,000 square foot building for a doctor's office. 2.5 years. That's tons of money and time. I mean, and if you do approve it, I ask that we put some kind of time frame that if they want to make some changes or recommendations, it's not in January or February. They have a 30-day turnaround time frame. If they want to recommend suggestions on siding, window heights, we're open to that. But not 6 more months down the road or 12 more months. That's our frustration. This has gone on way too long. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it. I appreciate all the time you put into it, but I'm frustrated. My doctors are frustrated.
Thank you, Mr. Compton. Should we do the
We've got one more.
May I say something one more time? Okay, we submitted this project to the HRC on March 16th. Now, here we are still 7 months later, basically. We submitted this site plan on May 8th of 2024, and we just have gotten permission here. The solid waste people let our project lay on their desk for 6 months without even looking at it, a guy named Mike Brown. And we're fed up with it. You know, I mean, it's like Doug said, I've been working on this thing it'll be 17 months, and then we had a few months when we were actually drawing and designing the building. So anyway, I want to really complain and say that this is ridiculous. All right.
And staff would just like to comment on the timeline of this project. Some of the delay was misunderstanding on the part of the applicant. We have a new electronic submission system for the city. It's an enterprise permitting and licensing system, and everything we do is digital now and gets digital stamps and review times. So a lot of the delay of this project has been misunderstanding about using that submittal and what things had to be submitted and by what time.
We have one more public comment.
I'm Deanna Bowman. I am an RN, and I've also helped Fred hands-on design this floor plan because I've worked in doctors' offices for over 20 years. I know what works and I know what doesn't. And that door, for the sake of the patients, has to be on the south side of the building. And the double or the corner door option doesn't work. As Fred alluded, it's a very tightly packed space. We don't have a lot of room to maneuver. And if we're going to do double doors, we're essentially turning our lobby into a hallway, a double hallway. We have nowhere for people to sit and wait to go see the doctor. Moving the bathroom to the other corner also does not work for the reasons he said. You cannot have a patient walking across the waiting room with their specimens to take back to the lab. The window films, while that's a great suggestion, would any of you be comfortable getting undressed with just a window film on a window? And what's the point of having the windows if you can't see out them? I mean, you want to be able to see out them, you want the natural light to come in, but you also want to maintain the patient's privacy. That's super important. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Billman. Well, I think before we have discussion, we should hear the ARC committee report.
We would need to take public comment first.
Oh, before the report, okay. Thank you, I was not sure of that order.
Can I
Is
ask,
there public comment?
before we go to the public comment, can I ask a question to one of the applicants about the site plan? In the July meeting, there was a talk about the pathway to it, and that on Alabama Street, the sidewalk is cobblestone. And I think the property as it is right now, it's just grass. The cobblestone stops, and then you have the concrete path on 6th Street. With the new design, it doesn't really expand out to like the space around it. If you had an entrance on the east side or west side from the parking lot, I assume you would have probably like a slightly sloped concrete walkway that would go up to that. Would the construction also kind of redo that cobblestone, or would that just be left alone?
Well, the cobblestone is there, it's just covered up with grass and dirt.
Okay, okay.
We're told that it can be cleaned and made workable, but here again, it's so patchy, as you go down Alabama Street, you see some concrete sidewalk, then you go to the brick. So we've decided to use it and try to maintain it. But when we come up to the driveway going into the parking lot, we have to have little ramps that have to be accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't use the brick there. You can't use the
Right.
Right.
But we would like to use it all. It's there. They say they can clean it.
Yes, unfortunately, if you look at the Google Street View for this property, they decided to retake pictures right after a snowstorm, so everything's covered in snow. So it was,
I have pictures here that shows that 5-foot difference from the curb up to the front door of the building.
So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
You would be helping elderly and mobility challenged people up a 12-foot sidewalk to get to an entrance
makes no
inside
sense.
the building.
Yeah.
but the walkway from the parking lot.
Commissioners, if you're going to have a discussion with the applicant, you need to ask the applicant to come to the podium so that we can make sure we have this conversation in the video with
Sorry
it
about
being
that.
able to be heard.
One other comment I might make quickly. If you put an entryway over on the east side, I cannot extend the roof out and protect the front door. There's a rule that says you can only have a 2-foot soffit on the entryway. I'd have to go to the Board of,
BZA.
changes or whatever, variances to get this done. And it's just, I don't know. Thank you.
Great, I'm calling for public comment at this time. Is there anyone in the audience or online that wishes to address the commission?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, thank you. All very good points, thank you. Let's briefly talk about the ARC report, or, the committee report. Stan, did you want to start that?
Sure. So I think Lynn mentioned most of the points that we discussed at the ARC. Really, the things that we were discussing is how the design of the building fits into the context area, and the important things that we felt, at least I felt, as part of the ARC, is that it's that interface between the building and the public way that helps to set the character of the building, the way it feels, the way it fits with the rest of the buildings in the neighborhood. The way this building is designed, and the way the interface with the streets is in my mind, more suburban. and less urban and less in character with the neighborhood around the area. So what we talked about at ARC were how to mitigate some of those effects with materials, the continuation of the stone around the base of the building. I think that north elevation, the two contrasting elevations between just leaving the windows the same height, but just pulling the stone down to give some perceptive relief against being a tall stone wall versus a lower wainscot makes a big difference on that north side. And we talked about the east entrance as whether that was a possibility or not, and I really appreciate Fred presenting that as an option. I'll be interested in hearing the commissioners talk about that. Did you have anything else, Joy, that we talked about?
I think, yeah, the overall, what Lynn and Stan brought up is, consistent with what I heard in the meeting. The reduction in the amount of stone there was a smooth stone and a rough stone proposed, and the smooth stone didn't seem to relate to the context area, but the rough stone did. So we asked for a reduction in the amount of stone and the two stones used so that it would just be the rough stone. And I also appreciate the look at swapping the entry and the restroom. Of course, we weren't considering what the restroom's use would be for the patients in the use of the building. So I appreciate the comments to let us know that it would not work for those purposes as well. And yeah, the exploration of how much stone is around the building, I feel like it should be on 4 sides because the context area does have stone on 4 sides of the properties in the context area of both listed properties. And yeah, I think that's about it.
And Commissioner Chair Coleman, before we start the commission discussion on this, it is staff's duty to remind you to make a defensible decision, and you have to use the criteria in Chapter 22, and those are included in the staff report. If you'll click on July 17th Historic Resources Commission meeting on your packet page, it'll take you to that staff report. And although Chapter 22 does not require you to explain why you would not make a project meet a guideline, it is in good form to explain why it's okay not to meet a design guidelines so that it is a defensible decision. And if for some reason someone in the future wanted to use it as an example, you would have a clear legal and binding set of minutes that would explain your decisions. Remember, my favorite saying is there is no criterion L.
Right. And those design guidelines in the July packet, do they start on page 39 with height, massing, scale, directional expression?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I think the one that isn't in compliance is the one about the door. So is that in directional expression?
Yes. That looks correct, yes.
So what we are trying to find is how to well, not necessarily have the front door on a primary elevation, or explain why the design alternative is helping the elevation have a street presence and a directional expression. I am curious to know also thoughts from the rest of the commission. I heard a couple thoughts on the logic of putting a door not on the parking lot side, or the illogical expression of that. Are there other, Commissioner Dearborn or Commissioner Buchanan, would you like to weigh in on that?
I think the land development code also puts a constraint on this. I'm going to be in favor of the functional use, because I think that's going to be what sustains this structure and make it more part of the community. If it works as a doctor's office appropriately, it's going to be held in higher regard and from the public. The community is going to embrace it more. If it's going to deter patients from being able to go see their doctor, it's not going to be a success. And that has me very worried. So my heart's with the preservation, but at the same time, I'm going to be in favor of keeping the south entrance. I think its directional expression works for its function, and the land development code is in contradiction to our historic guidelines. So we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place with that.
Yeah, excuse me, Commissioner Buchanan, the land development code does not require the building entrance on the south.
Okay, but we can't move the structure to the back of the parking, like we can't swap the parking lot.
It does prohibit the parking lot being in front of the building.
Right, so it does limit our ability to have other options.
I spent 18 months in a wheelchair and a walker and a cane and a wheelchair and blah, blah, blah. And the idea of having to get out of a car or a T-lift when it's 5 degrees outside and blowing snow and have someone push me around the corner to get in someplace I probably don't want to go to start with does not appeal to me. It just doesn't. I think in just the logic of it, the parking lot and the door need to be adjacent. Nothing else makes any sense. I do think having the stone low does help the structure overall fit in with the neighborhood. And I would strongly support some sort of compromise between those two issues.
Yeah. I definitely support having this only one stone and not two. And the rough stone, to me, speaks more of the context area, especially with the Pinckney Park across the street. So I am fine with having more stone than just the water table on all 4 sides. If you wanted to explore some of that, I'd be open to it, whatever you guys decide. Just don't have multiple stones, like no smooth stone. And I'm in favor of keeping the ribbon windows. As somebody who visits doctor's offices frequently, I'm definitely in favor of ribbon windows. And yes, it's a more of a prairie school or modern expression of fenestration patterns. I think overall it's going to be much better client experience or patient experience. Yeah.
Okay, I hear a lot of agreement on these things, and our charge is to create a defensible reason why this building has the primary, if you define primary facade as the facade with the entry on it, why we would be accepting of a solution that does not have the entry on the primary facade, or how does the street-facing facade have more of a street presence? I think
it's, the front door needs to be on the south side, next to the parking lot, period.
Agreed.
That's the justification for the purpose of this building.
I think the defense can be even something as simple as the American with Disabilities Act.
There you go.
Although this doesn't
Here's another
exactly
one.
apply to that, I think it can be inferred to apply to it. People with disabilities need to be able to access the building.
Quickly, easily.
Yeah.
I think the other defense is that any other options that would allow us to orient the primary entrance to face north is not an option because of the land development code.
So for staff's clarification, one of the reasons this might not be applicable to other projects would be because of the proposed use and design of the structure?
Yeah,
Does
on
that-
6th
Yeah, it's
Street.
programming.
Does that represent what you're feeling?
Yes,
The
on
intent
6th
of
Street.
the structure.
So one other thing to look at that Fred has mentioned is the grade difference from Alabama up to the parking lot. Just looking at the site plan and the slopes on the site plan, the parking spaces where the handicap spaces are located are pushed further to the west in the parking lot, and that's because of the grade change coming up from Alabama Street. So there's some site constraints that won't allow the handicap parking spaces to be located further to the east. And if the handicap parking spaces were able to be against the east end of the parking lot, it would make it an easier argument to say that an east entrance would be just as close as a south entrance.
But then you lose the programming.
No, that's what I'm saying is.
It's the slope that gets in the way.
It's the slope that pushes the accessible spaces further to the west,
Right.
which makes it less functional to have the entrance on the east.
Right. Is that enough justification?
Okay, it sounds like I hear agreement. I'd like to call for a vote. Is there a motion, or call for a motion?
So before we do that, can we talk about the materials on the north side?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, yes.
Well, I guess north and east side both. I feel like the brick around the base is the best overall approach. I mean, the building is going to be visible really on all four sides. The credit union building next door, there's nothing that's going to screen the vision of the west side of the building. So the west side is really going to be just as visible as the east side. So in my opinion, it should be the same appearance all the way around.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I'm looking at the difference between option 1 and 2, so the SNA option versus the HRC option. And I think, Stan, what you're saying is if this entry is on the south elevation, like the SNA option, but apply that to the HRC
Yes.
solution.
Right, with the stone base all the way around at the same height. I think that makes a big difference on the north side, honestly. I mean, if you look at the north elevation where the stone comes all the way up to the bottom of the windows versus the option that holds the stone down, it's not a change in the windows, it's just a change in the physical mass that you see. And the height of the stone becomes more fortress-like and creates more of a perceived separation between the building and the street. And holding the stone lower and wrapping the lap siding underneath it helps to soften that connection to the street.
Agreed. All right. Now I think it's time for a vote. Do I hear a motion?
I'm not sure how to word it.
I think Stan could do that.
With everything that we, can agree on. I mean, for me, the bottom line is the south entrance, period. I mean, that's a huge one.
So I'll take a stab at this.
There you go.
We find that the proposed project, option 2, meets the standards of review in Chapter 22, Section 22507, and the design criteria in Chapter 22, Section 22508, and issue the certificate of approval for the proposed project with the condition that the HRA can approve small design changes of materials, potentially windows, but the entrance must stay on the south side.
I'd second that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Buchanan and Commissioner Dearborn. We'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Dearborn,
Aye.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernley,
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan,
Aye.
and Chair Coleman is an aye. The motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Moving on to the second agenda item, HRC 250016.
Okay, thank you. I guess, are my slides shared? Give me just 1 second.
Not quite.
Okay.
There you go. Green left at the bottom. Okay, you got it. You've done this.
Okay, let's start that again. Thank you. My name is Avery Kerner, and I'm one of the planners with the Planning Office. Again, this next item before you is a Chapter 22 Certificate of Approval review for a proposed addition in the context area of the Adam and Annie Rotman House located at 2127 Barker Avenue. The proposed addition is to the existing structure at 2115 Barker Avenue. And this project was reviewed by the HRC last month, and it was forwarded to the ARC to see if there were design alternatives for the project that could better meet the standards and review criteria in Chapter 22, while also achieving the property owner's goals. The applicant and property owner met with the ARC on September 3rd and submitted revised drawings in response to the ARC's recommendations. And then as a quick refresher, I'm just going to very quickly go through some photos of the existing structure and then the original plans that were presented to the commission at last month's meeting before walking through the revised plans that were submitted. So this is, going back, so this is the context area map for the listed property at 2127 Barker Avenue. And the proposed project, again, is located at 2115 Barker Avenue, which is outlined in light blue at the top of the image. So this is the front east elevation of the existing structure facing Barker Avenue. This is the south elevation of the existing structure, and on the left-hand side of the image is the rear portion of the structure that would be removed with the project and replaced with an addition. The addition would also extend into the south side yard of this, the structure. And then this is a fuzzy image, but it is of the west rear elevation of the existing structure. Again, that rear portion being the portion that would be demolished on the existing structure. And then the north elevation. This is the original site plan that was proposed. And if you remember, one of the reasons for placing or for the proposed placement of the new addition in that south side yard was to avoid constructing over an existing city sanitary sewer line that runs across the property at the rear of the existing structure. And that sanitary sewer line, again, is shown here in yellow. So this was the front east elevation that had been proposed. And as you can see, the plans had a second level balcony and then first floor porch and then a second floor balcony, both of which were large in scale compared to the new addition and the existing structure and the existing front porch. There were also concerns with the number and arrangement of door openings not fitting in with the existing fenestration patterns for similar structures on within the context area of the listed property. This was the south elevation proposed, which shows the new construction was set back about 14 feet from that front wall plane of the existing structure. And then it was about 3 feet taller than the existing structure. Both of those items did not meet the design criteria for height and setbacks. And then the original rear west elevation that was proposed, and then the north elevation. This is the revised east elevation for the project that was submitted by the applicant. Here you can see that the upstairs or the second level balcony and front facing doors on that second level have been removed and replaced with windows. And then the porch, that secondary porch, is now covered with a roof, an east sloping roof. And then you can't see it from this elevation, but you'll see it in a couple slides. But with the removal of that balcony on the second level, on that front east elevation, the applicant is actually now proposing a rooftop deck on the west side of the structure. This is the revised south elevation, and from this elevation, you can see the depth of that new porch has been slightly reduced. And then the height of the addition has also been slightly reduced by lowering the pitch of that roof. And then the new setback and height proposed still do not strictly meet the design criteria for setback and height. But from those changes, you can see that those changes that have been made help to reduce the size and scale of that addition and make it feel a little bit more subordinate. This is the proposed west elevation, and then here you can see the rooftop deck that is now proposed. And then again, you can see that rooftop deck from the north elevation, and that it would be accessible from the second level with a door on the north elevation of that second story. The applicant has also submitted new renderings for the project. So this slide shows the new east elevation and south elevation renderings. And then this slide actually shows a side-by-side comparison of the original and revised renderings that were submitted to show the southeast elevation of the addition. And I just wanted to share this because I think it does a good job, or having those side by side does a good job at showing the difference that those changes have made in that project. And then finally the west elevation and the northwest elevation for the project. So the ARC has reviewed these revised plans that were submitted, and they've indicated their support. And then while the proposed project does not strictly meet all of the design criteria, specifically for height and setback, staff is in agreement with the ARC and is supportive of approving the project. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Avery. Are there any questions for staff? If not, is the applicant present and would you like to say something?
We have the property.
I would just say congratulations on working around that storm sewer. That was
summer and Stan helped.
That's a big one. So congrats on that.
Yeah, I think the new plan solved every issue I had an issue with. It really does. I think it's fantastic, and I'm jealous of the deck. I think the rooftop deck is the way to go.
It was my initial request. We couldn't make it happen too easily, but we made it happen, so I'll take that.
Good.
Yes, I love it too.
Was there any discussion on materials?
Before we get into that, are you asking a question, or I can't see if anyone's at the microphone?
No, he's not yet. I guess the question's both to the applicant and to the ARC, both?
Oh, I think we need to take, if we can hear from the applicant and then we take public comment and then we can talk about the ARC.
Okay.
So what's the question you would like me to answer?
How about we wait till after public comment and ARC and see if that answers the question? All right.
Great. Is there any public comment?
Yes.
Dennis Brown, Lawrence Preservation Alliance. Our advocacy committee has followed this agenda item like we do all agenda items, and we were quite pleased with the revised drawings and wish to offer a congratulations to the applicant team and the ARC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
No.
Wonderful. Okay, ARC report. We, on this item, had asked for a reduction in height of the addition roof. And I've lost my notes. No, that's not it. Sorry, my tech is geeking out on me. It was the roof, it was the second floor porch. What was there something else, Dan?
We did talk about the materials, and I think the consensus at ARC was that the windows in particular had already been changed in the existing house, and that it didn't really make sense to really dwell on the windows in the addition being different from those. I can't remember our discussion about the siding.
We did discuss siding as well. We discussed the changes that the applicant has since made about the doors going to windows on that second level of the addition and how that makes a really big change. At the ARC meeting, the applicant and designer took off the table to remove all of the shingle siding on the original structure and requested to use lap siding on the addition, which is appropriate and meets the standards. So I think those were the things that we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to make that deck work on the back.
Yeah, I can understand why.
Yes, so,
Oh, and the roof pitch
Yeah.
changed.
I think that was a huge,
Phenomenal.
yeah, I think this is a really, really good example of when something goes to the ARC and they work, quote, their magic and get something back that is palatable. You guys did some serious jingo with this, and it shows. And I think the applicant for going through that process.
Yeah, and it was equally, I mean, it was more the applicant and their architect who heard the requests for, look at this porch on the second floor and look at the height of the ridge line, and really worked through those and threw out good options. So I thank them for that.
Yep.
All right, I'd like to call for a vote if there's a motion out there.
I can move. We find that I move that we find the revised drawings for the proposed project meets the overall intent of the applicable standards and design criteria for new additions in the context area in Chapter 2, Sections 22.507 and 508, and approve the certificate of approval for the proposed project.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Klein and Commissioner Buchanan. I'll take a roll call vote now. Commissioner Dearborn,
Aye.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye?
Commissioner Hernley,
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan,
Aye.
and Chair Coleman is an aye. The motion passes 6-0. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Moving on to the third public hearing item, HRC 250020.
Commissioners, this is new construction on a vacant lot located at 1218 Mississippi Street, and you reviewed this at your last in the August HRC meeting and forwarded it to the Architectural Review Committee to help it better meet primarily the design guidelines and the Oread design guidelines, but then also some of the design standards in Chapter 22 for the Certificate of Approval. And similarly to what we were just talking about, the architect that worked so hard on the previous project, I would like to start this out with huge kudos for the architect on this project, who has been very diligent and offering lots of solutions and trying to incorporate things that the HRC thought would make the project better meet the standards and guidelines. And with that, I'll point your attention to, even after he got the staff report last Thursday, he did a redesign and sent new drawings in, which were added to your packet today, that incorporated all the conditions that staff had proposed that were things that ARC thought needed to happen for the project to meet or better meet those standards and guidelines. And so if you'll recall, the property's located in the context area of the Snow House, and it is also in the Oread Neighborhood Design Overlay District, and a small portion of the property is located in the historic district, and that should not be the Oread Historic District, but it's in the design overlay. It's the Hancock Historic District, and then the context area of the Snow House. And so this is the property location again. Remember, we were talking about what a huge impact the large KU parking garage has on this, and then how this lot is kind of a transition lot into that historic district and those listed properties. We also talked a lot about how the ECM building here on Oread Avenue, and then the apartment complex that's here at 12th and Oread Avenue are actually located in the overlay district for this property. So they can be considered part of the review when we're looking at the Oread Design Guidelines review. So again, quickly through the photos, this is the vacant lot. What this doesn't show is that there's a significant drop to the street below. And this helps you understand that. The property is landlocked. The only vehicular access available to the lot is from Mississippi Street, unless they try to purchase some type of property or easement from the property to the east of the structure, the proposed location of the structure. This is the property that is directly to the north of the structure. The design for the new structure really took this element of the large stone columns and piers with the columns on top as a design inspiration. And then here is the KU parking garage, which even though it's large and massive, really does a good job of blending into historic KU architecture, and does help it a little bit with the historic properties to the north with the use of the brick and the smooth panels. And this is the snow house that you cannot see from the project site, but it is the reason we have the context area for the certificate of approval. And then I put the ECM building in here so you can see the flat roof on part of the structure, and the apartment complex also has a flat roof. So we spent a lot of time last time talking about if you weren't going to meet the letter of the design criteria for the certificate of approval or for the Oread design guidelines, they're again making that defensible decision as to why it's okay for this specific project not to meet those. And then just again to get you back to the site. So this is the proposed site plan for the project. This has not changed. The building shape and square footage did not change through the ARC review. I'm just going to quickly let you look at a couple of renderings that we had from the previous version of this. You'll notice the street access and the underground garage. It had the stone along the base and the nice stone columns, but it also had vertical board siding, and there were some concerns about the overall massing and height. This is the proposed revision that includes all of the information that was in the staff's conditions for a possible approval, and the items that the Architectural Review Committee thought would help the project better meet the standards and guidelines. And I'd like to point out a few of those. You see we still have the stone columns, but they've been adjusted a little bit. We don't have 4, we have the 3 to help with that lower facade. The materials have changed from many to really 3, and the stone is used all around the base of the building, and it's a little bit of a rough face, but then on the elevator and stair tower, it's a smooth stone, but it's basically a very similar color. So you just have that use of stone on those heavy pieces that are kind of foundational pieces for a structure. The rest of the materials were changed to that horizontal lap siding, which is so prevalent in the historic district and in the context area. The applicant, if you had a chance to look at all those submissions that were included in the packet, at the ARC meeting, we discussed the possibility of using cables as the balustrade for the outdoor areas. A lot of times when we're working with historic properties, we suggest the cables because they're usually dark and they kind of fade away from a distance. In this particular case, when those were added, it gave a much stronger horizontality to the structure, and since this is more of a modern interpretation of an Italianate, the vertical should really be more dominant, and so the ARC was of the opinion that using those glass railings was more appropriate in this case because it does help them kind of disappear and it does not add to that horizontality like the cables would. The other thing that you'll notice is that some of the windows have changed sizes, and this was in reference to when we were talking about the facade and the windows and how they meet that design guideline, both for the Oread Historic District and the certificate of approval of trying to have the windows agree with the height across the whatever plane they're in. They are still not operable windows in the sense of a typical double hung window that you would see in a historic structure. They are placed similarly, with the exception of those center doors, which are likely going to be sliding glass doors to access those balconies. And so it really does help bring that overall rhythm back into things that you do see in the context area and helping to meet that design criteria in Chapter 22 as well as the Oread design guidelines. This is showing that north side as it was originally proposed, and you can see how many different building materials we had on this elevation, and the revised elevation has been simplified, and one of the things that is really important when you're building new infill into historic areas is to try to simplify the materials and the overall identity of the structure so that it doesn't compete with the historic character of the neighborhood. It can still be a modern design, but it should be compatible with the historic neighborhood or context area. And so by changing up the materials and working a little bit on the windows, you can tell how this really changes this elevation to be more sensitive to the context area. And this is what that elevation was before with the stone, the brick, the vertical lap siding. This is the rear elevation, by the way, I'm sorry. And when the applicant took those same design principles and changed to fewer design materials, and you can see now how much more compatible this is with the residential structures in the context area and in the Oread overlay district. This is showing the south elevation that is adjacent to the parking garage. And we had similar, design concerns on this side of the structure, and then the applicant has redesigned this. So again, you have just, there are really three materials, but the two of them are stone. They're just a little bit different in their texture. And what I really like about this is that it kind of gives that base to the elevator stair shaft and helps it maybe not seem so tall and overwhelming. So I thought they did a really good job with making those changes. If you'll notice, it still has a flat roof. We looked at design options that would change this third floor deck balcony area, and when the architect made those changes, we recognized that it wasn't really helping the overall design achieve more compatibility, and it is an amenity that the property owner feels strongly about. And so the ARC and staff are of the opinion that even though that's not a typical thing that you see in the context area, when you're in the street or on the sidewalk and walking up and down, and even from the other side of Mississippi Street, changes to make those balconies smaller just weren't that impactful to make a change in how the structure interacted with the context area or the Oread district. The applicant included this in the drawings that were added to your packet today, which I think is really helpful because it really talks about, and several of you mentioned this when we were looking at the project last month, it really helps you understand kind of this looking at being more of a transition piece. It's very modern, which is kind of where we're looking at with the parking garage, but it's incorporating materials that are used in the context area. And so according to their calculations, you're going from 66 feet for the parking garage down to 45 and a half. And then the structure directly to the north is at 35. So it's really making that kind of gradual transition. And even though the structure is modern, it's picking up some of those character defining materials and architectural details that help it also be a transitional structure from the parking garage into the residential area. This was also a great rendering done by the architect that really helps you understand the size and scale and massing of the structure. While it's much larger than most of the residential structures in the area, it does have a lot in common with the apartment complex that is also in the Oread Historic District, and then it does even have some similarity with ECM, which is also in that same overlay district. And this is more what you'll see if you're downstanding on the street, really closer to that western sidewalk. So because of the way they've altered the height and the design and massing, you can tell from this it'll be a little bit more extreme than what this rendering shows, but it is not as overpowering as some of the previous designs because it's been simplified, because the materials have changed, and those different little architectural details that they've done to help it be more compatible. And this one's really great too because they went the extra step and put the house that is here before you get to the cut through to 12th Street, and it helps you see, again, how that's kind of flowing height-wise down. And then you do have this really big porch on this structure. You have a really big porch on this structure, and this is kind of compatible and reminiscent of those architectural details. So I've switched this up on you a little bit because the architect was so awesome and submitted those new revised drawings. So we talked a lot about this the last time as far as the state law review goes. It's really just that little portion of the historic district that is on the property, and likely staff is probably going to submit for a boundary adjustment to clean that up a little bit, but because that's the way it is now, we did have to use the Secretary of the Interior standards for review, and staff is of the opinion that this revised version of the project does meet the intent of the Secretary of the Interior standards. It is still a very modern building, but the standards do not prohibit that. They just ask that it be compatible. And staff is of the opinion that the changes the applicant made have made it a compatible structure with the Hancock Historic District. The Oread design guidelines, we spent a little time talking about this last time too, and I can pull those up for you if you would like to look at those. On your cover sheet for this item in your agenda packet, staff pulled those guidelines out that this project may kind of meet, but it may not meet those, and went through the reasoning from the Architectural Review Committee and staff as to the justification for perhaps not meeting the letter of those design guidelines. The Oread design guidelines do give the commission the ability to look at the whole situation and extenuating circumstances, and of course for staff, one of the big extenuating circumstances for this property was its adjacency to the parking garage, the hill that it's having to be built on, and having to cut through that for the garage underneath the building. One of those design guidelines was that the parking should be behind the structure, and that's just not realistic for this plot of land because there's no vehicle access from the east. So those, the guidelines that it still doesn't meet the letter of are in your executive summary in the packet, and we can talk about those if you would like to. The certificate of approval allows for you to condition an approval, and staff is of the opinion that it's appropriate to issue the certificate of approval for the proposed project and find that it does meet the standards of review in Chapter 22 and the design criteria in 22-507 and 508. But we have to go through a couple of other steps for the construction of this building. We're still working some of those out with building code, and so staff would recommend that you also condition this allowing the Historic Resources Administrator to be able to adjust some of those small details in fenestration, material selection, and changes that may be required for the site layout of the structure. Again, making sure you know that if any of those changes do not meet the standards, or if staff doesn't think they're small, then the project would come back to you for review of those changes. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you might have.
So Lynn, the last statement you made about the small details and things and you being able to review those and administratively approve them, is that, you said it was related to the fact that the project is still going through something. I didn't catch it.
We're still working on building code review and things like that, and then small adjustments that may need to be made with window locations and floor layout and proximity to property lines.
Thank you very much. Okay, any pressing questions before we hear from the applicant? No? Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Oh.
Would you like to say?
Hi, this is Jared Hoke of Hoke Architects. I guess one thing I'd like to add is that regarding the garage, there is historical precedent in the Hancock District of a garage being located front of the structure at 1200 Mississippi Street. And with saying that, I'd also like to just thank the ARC and Lynn with being patient with me. I know I threw out a lot of options there. That's kind of how I work, and maybe my downfalls. I like to do a lot of options, but I felt like it hopefully helped the process and allowed the ERC and Lynn to kind of better understand what the constraints were with the project, and then also how the suggestions kind of worked out in paper. I wanted to add to Commissioner Klein that I did do an option that had wider, larger stone columns with 2 columns. And it didn't work, but I took the time to look at it, and so I took those into consideration. But I think for the most part that the adjustments that were made, benefited the building and also allow it to be more compatible with the Hancock Historic District and the Oread neighborhood. And I hope you feel the same. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, thank you. So discussion or questions? Do we all know which option we're looking at? There were a lot submitted.
Yeah, I'm checking to see if it got uploaded to the packet, and I
don't
Yeah,
think it did.
So
I think it is.
I do have one question, or 2 questions for anybody to answer. On the overhangs, there was a 3-foot reduction in the overhang. What was the reasoning behind that?
That
was
is
a
a downtown design guideline, the width of the overhang.
You mean Oread?
I mean Oread design guideline, yes.
Even for Italianate or because to me, just overall, it started to look suffocated and less like an Italianate overhang, and it also seems less in that modern sense. With that modern, like they have room to breathe and they expand, like they're inhaling instead of exhaling, right? So is there an actual limit?
Yes.
So because this is leaning into transition, it's new construction, and that there's other precedents in the district that is more modern, would there be an defensible argument to compromise on at least giving back like 1.5 feet? And was that ever looked at?
I think we can talk about that, but I think one of the things we did talk about at the ARC and with staff is with the reduction in those overhangs, it kind of brought the whole building together and again, more horizontal, and it really helps the building mass seem smaller.
I understand the mass seeming smaller, but I think just the overall architectural style of it, it feels suffocated. And I don't know if 1.5 feet would be worth it. I don't know if that would be a compromise or not.
No, the overhang is 2 feet, right?
At the top floor,
Mm-hmm.
2, 3, 4, at the fourth floor, they were originally 48 inches.
Okay.
They've been reduced to 36 inches because the Oread guidelines state that it has to be between 16 and 36 inches.
Okay.
I agree with you. I feel as though the Italianate roofs really tend to grow from the outside to balance that verticality.
Right.
But I'm also trying to meet as many guidelines as possible to get this thing passed.
So,
Yeah.
Jared, what is the overhang on the third story? I guess the
24.
24, okay. But it could be 36, is that correct?
So on that second and third floor, could you increase it up to 36? Like
I could. There were comments in the ERC meeting about how roofs over the porch were usually sucked in a little bit more. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did I say that right? And then the upper roof, the main roof, was actually flying out a little bit more. So I kept the roofs everywhere the same except for at the top of the third floor, and I reduced that from 48 to 36 inches.
And I think what you see with most Italianate houses, while they may have that overall overhang be a little bit bigger, you don't see them typically the shape of this,
Right.
where you've got a recess and a front part and a deck around it.
Right.
And then if you look at this, it's not truly a 3-story building, but it's not really a whole 4-story building. And by pushing that 4th story back and restricting it a little bit, it becomes more of a 3-story building, but it's got a flat roof. So I think that's where we ended up reducing those. And then also, again, like Jared said, trying to meet most of the guidelines.
I was trying to reduce the amount of defensible actions you would have to
No, I agree. And my question is, and this is to the committee, is do we think we should make that a defensible change to let it breathe again? So if you compare the page that's, I think it's 80 in the PDF, but the page itself of his submissions is page 36 of 92, which I think is the original submission. And you look at any of the other options where it's been brought in, I just feel like it has more of that, it just feels like it has more room to breathe, and it's not quite so confined. And if that is enough, taking into account, not just Italianates, but also ECM and the apartment building, if that's kind of where we're getting our argument for the modern expression of this, can we just let it be more modern? Is that going to be defensible? I'm asking you guys, if that's...
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
I don't know. So I'm looking at the A 9.0 sheet from the original submittal to the current one. And if I'm looking at this right, the original one had the larger overhang on that, we'll call it the 3rd story. And in my eye, that larger overhang detracts from the simplified mass of the 2-story lap-sided portion. It in some way that extended horizontal reads separate from that mass instead of as part of that mass.
It's 9190.
So it's the sheet that has the 4 perspectives.
Right. And you said it's 90, not 91?
A90, yeah.
Since there isn't a direct elevation, like the rendering, the next page after A.
Right, yeah, 91. Yeah, you see, even in that, the larger overhang over that 3rd story, I don't know, it just reads like a separate element from the main building mass.
And I guess that's where I pull the Italianate influence, is that in Italianate, the extended port, like that's part of a character defining element of Italianate.
I mean, Italianate's going to have brackets and sort of connect them together more, and this is more of
This
a
is stripped of all
clean,
that.
yeah.
And this is the conversation I wanted to have, is it worth exploring? Like, do we think it's defensible to explore?
Well, if it's allowed by the code to go to 36, then sure. And at that point, it just becomes sort of a design argument with things sitting side by side and hashing it out and seeing who wins.
And staff would just interject also that we don't have Italianate structures in this portion of Oread or in the context area. And so while we're calling this a modern interpretation of an Italianate style, if you list the characteristics of an Italianate style, you know, you could argue that either way, because I mean, there are things of this that are just pure modern architecture. And I'm not sure that bringing in a roof that typically has brackets and things like that.
It's not apples to apples. Yeah. So also in that same vein, by comparing also that same kind of like 9.0 or even just the elevation, the rendering on page 36 of 92, I think what jumped out at me in the options is that the newer options seem to have far more glass on the second story, and it's not broken up by any kind of solid wall plane. And I wanted to know from the ARC's perspective, like, why encourage more glass?
Find that one.
So basically, the original submission to a lot of these other ones on that second floor, you know, the first floor has got the stone, second one's now pretty much all glass.
I don't know if it's changed. Can you talk about the changes in the glass? Thank you.
So, I mean, that was a direct response to the ARC's comments about wanting to express the verticality. When we had that solid wall between, you know, the two sets of windows on the second floor, it actually, in my opinion, increased the horizontality.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was basically responding to what I felt was coming out of the ARC was to, you know, we really need to find a way to get this thing more vertical. So by having a 2-story stack of glass, it achieved that.
Okay.
Does that mean that it becomes more compatible with the guidelines? I don't know, but we were trying to improve the design first and foremost, right? So that the design works as a whole, and then, you know, and then the challenge is also, well, how does it work with the guidelines?
Yeah. So now I understand where that came from. Because to me, that kind of first, where it is broken up, has more of a historic fenestration rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're trying to increase, if that was your goal, you met your goal. So you did what you were asked.
Right.
So.
Well, and I also see the rhythm as being more than just solid void, solid void, solid void. You know, there is the rhythm of the glass, which is alluding to the rhythms of what you would see on a facade, you know, of a historic facade. We just happen to be using more glass. So.
Okay, I'm following along where you're talking about. So in the previous version, it had the instead of having the 3 panels on the middle story,
right,
it had 2 separate ones. Yeah.
And I just overall, like, if you just take a quick glance, like scrolling
Yeah.
through stuff,
Yeah, I can see that. The argument against that, in my mind, is that when you go to the new version, what I like about this quite a lot is that the building reads as having a stone base, and it's basically a stone foundation level, basement level. And then it becomes a two-story lap-sided building, lap-sided house sitting on top of that. That's the same footprint. So it's
Right.
that becomes kind of the three-story block. And having those windows the same on the middle story and the top story helps to unify those two stories together to read as a unit versus layering that second, making that middle level look different, makes that level read as a different horizontal piece of cake.
yes.
And by having it, the glass matching from the second to the third in that front main corner helps to unify that mass as a two-story mass versus two single-story things on top of each other, in my mind.
And I agree with that. I just think overall the aesthetics, separating them, I don't know, I guess I like busyness, I don't know. The new renders makes me feel like it's a glass house with a little bit of siding. Just don't throw any stones, I guess.
know.
Like, I don't know.
There's a pretty good amount of siding still. I don't know. So I have a question about the ceilings of the porches, patios, overhangs, soffits. What's the material selection for that? Because that's going to be very visible.
Yeah, it'd be wood.
Yes.
It'd be wood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think on one of the renderings, it's not rendered correctly.
Okay.
The third floor roof, I think,
Gotcha.
is showing dark, and it's not supposed to be.
So, and one other point, is there any way to get that 9.0 sheet up on the board? So up on that third deck, that guardrail that returns back to the stair elevator tower is a solid wall with lap siding instead of a glass rail returning. And I'm wondering about that. And it feels like that detracts from the horizontal connection of that roof line through there. And if that guardrail was the glass rail, I feel like that would
I guess I'm not
help a little bit.
seeing-
Yeah, I mean, the reasoning for that, maybe it's naive since it's so open up there, but I was like, oh, there needs to be a little bit of protection from the parking garage. But yeah, I'm totally fine with switching that to glass.
Yeah. I'm good. So there's a wall similar to that on the northeast view, and that one I think makes sense because you're sort of shielding the view of the roof from the patio.
Right.
So I think it makes sense there. I think it would help the feel of the mass of the building to be glass on that other corner.
Would that be one of those elements that kind of Lynn was talking about for administrative approval?
Sure, yeah.
So back to Joy's question and maybe some others, which version are we going to say go with this and make small changes to this?
Okay, if you'll go to the item in your packet for this month, there is on the executive summary, if you start there, and then you scroll down to the attachments, all the way at the bottom, There was revised drawings added 9/18/25. And that is the version we're looking at.
Yeah.
That met or incorporated all those ARC comments.
And I still have a printout if it's helpful.
But the main agenda page, all that information is the same in terms of what we're voting on, language-wise?
No, it is not.
No.
Okay, then
That
I'm
was
really
changed in
lost.
the,
I've been trying.
I will put that back up when you get to the point of making a motion.
So I downloaded at like 3:30, and I think I didn't get those. I just looked
think
again, and
I
that
think it
date
was
isn't
added
showing.
around 4:15.
Oh, well, geez.
Is there any way we can pull up on the screen so we can all see today's submission? Because I think even everything we've been talking about has been prior submissions.
Right, in the PowerPoint presentation I gave this evening, those are all the revised submissions that we
And the-
received today.
the packet that it's on the packet at the end of the last
So
one.
which
Yeah, I'm trying to
page?
get that to
That's what I'm
Revised.
saying. What page of this whole agenda packet is the
130
final on?
137 of the PDF is where it starts.
I can't get that off of Zoom. And my internet's not.
Then I don't have agenda packet.
Come on, refresh. Here we go.
Item.
You said it's submission with a date?
It's the very last edition on the attachments.
A drawing submitted after ARC review comments? Okay.
The one's dated today, September 18th.
So wait, the
This
final
is July
page in the...
7th.
The final page in the agenda packet is 155.
Yeah, that's the right one.
So but where's the language that we're looking at?
The language is, I'm going to put it up on the screen.
Yeah, the language is not there yet.
Because 4:30 is pretty late.
Now this one's only got 100.
Well, and, and he didn't even have to submit that. I thought it was awesome that he took the time to do that for us to get it, so I could use it in the slides.
This still says July 7th.
Yeah, the date printed on the drawing is July 7th, but
Oops.
Okay. Just
See,
making
that's-
sure we're all
Yeah.
looking
I
at
know,
the
I want to
right
be
stuff.
on the same page, literally.
Yeah, yeah.
In the issue, it has
Does it?
9/8. Okay. So it's the HRC set sub 2?
I don't know where it is.
I'm getting to the,
Page 153.
Oh, so when you're looking at it online, it doesn't give you page numbers. So I'm on the last few pages, but there's, so let me download this real quick so I can get page numbers.
Well, it's just two
Page 150,
is the most recent.
page 153 is
No,
drawings.
these are
I'm
the
not
ones that you
seeing
just said
language.
That are the, whoops,
Yeah, that's,
No,
this is 9/8.
Lynn is gonna put the
155 and
language on the
150, it's all,
and under issue.
it's all images.
July 7th.
There's no language
Right.
at the end
Yes,
right.
September
There is
Yeah.
no language
That's
yet.
what-
Lynn is going to put that on the screen.
I believe.
that we don't have in our packet anywhere?
No, we do, if you get the most recent
It's like the
packet.
last 3 pages of the agenda packet.
Packet or agenda? There's a difference.
The agenda packet.
I'm on the agenda packet,
that has
and it's,
everything.
and the last 3 pages are images.
It's.
Yes, that's them.
That's,
But I'm looking for language of what we're voting on.
Lynn's going to put that on the screen.
I'm going to put that on the screen.
So that's what I'm saying. So we don't have a copy of the recent language, the most recent language.
Correct. So do we still want to go through and look at the drawings? Or did everybody find them in their packet?
Well, I'm hearing amongst the commissioners, I'm hearing some agreement, and then there was some discussion about with the extension of the overhang and the mid-level, which is the third floor, triple window. But other than that, it sounds, I haven't heard any other questions or discussions or issues.
I do have one more question for the applicant after, hopefully we get that language pulled up.
This is a very complicated one because it's, it's a modern design in a transition lot between a historic neighborhood and a newer parking garage. It has a lot of moving parts to it with all the options. But this latest revised drawing set and proposal, I believe, has met all of the ARC requests and has done as much as it can to provide a design that is in character with the context area.
Agreed.
So the language staff is proposing for recommendation for the project, for this state law review, it's your standard approval language that says, in accordance with the Secretary of the Interior standards, the standards of evaluation, approve the project and make the determination that the project does not damage or destroy any historic property included in the National Register of Historic Places or the State Register of Historic Places. So that's your pretty standard language for a state law review. The Oread design guidelines changed a little bit, and for this one, it is after considering the whole situation and extenuating circumstances, find that the proposed project meets the intent of the development and design standards of the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines for the Oread Neighborhood Historic Overlay District. Reasons for not achieving some of the guidelines are documented in the executive summary in the agenda item report.
Perfect. Do you want to leave that up there so I can make a motion?
I will. Let me go through the one for a certificate of approval as well. So for the certificate of approval, since the applicant submitted those drawings that originally staff had proposed many conditions, and he has incorporated all of those into that last set of drawings. But as I mentioned before, there may have to be a few tweaks as we get through the building permit and things of that nature. So staff is recommending approval with the condition that small details in fenestration, material selection, and small changes required for the site layout be approved administratively by the Historic Resources Administrator. And again, with that caveat, if they don't meet the guidelines, then that comes back to the full commission. This is just a way to try to help applicants get through the process a little faster, because if you have to come back every time you have to, fire rate a wall and the window goes away, that's an extra month and a half, sometimes 2 months for them to add on to the project. So I will put it back on the first two.
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, do I hear a motion for this state law review?
In accordance with the Secretary of the Interior standards, the standards of evaluation, approve the project and make the determination that the project does not damage or destroy any historic property included in the National Register of Historic Places or the State Register of Historic Places.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Buchanan and Commissioner Cunningham. We'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Klein,
Yay?
Commissioner Dearborn,
Aye.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernley,
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan,
Aye.
and Chair Coleman is an aye. Do I hear a motion for the Oread design guidelines?
I'll read this. After considering the whole situation and extenuating circumstances, find that the proposed project meets the intent of the development and design standards in the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines for the Oread Neighborhood Design Overlay District. Reasons for not achieving some of the guidelines are documented in the executive summary in the agenda item report.
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Buchanan and Commissioner Cunningham. I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Klein,
Nay.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Aye.
Commissioner Dearborn,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernley,
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan,
Aye.
and Chair Coleman is an aye. The motion passes 5-1. And can I hear a motion for the certificate of approval?
I'll go. Find that the proposed project meets the standards of review in Chapter 22, Section 22507, and the design criteria in Chapter 22, Section 22508, and issue the certificate of approval for the proposed project with the condition that small details in fenestration, material, selection, and small changes required for the site layout can be approved by by the Historic Resources Administrator.
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Buchanan and Commissioner Cunningham. Commissioner Hernley,
Aye.
Commissioner Dearborn,
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Nay.
Commissioner Cunningham,
Aye.
and Chair Coleman is an aye. Motion passes 5-1. Thank you very much, everyone. And good luck on your project. Jerry. All right, moving on to Part E of the agenda, miscellaneous items. Do we have any?
Staff has no general miscellaneous items, but I would like to shock Commissioner Hernley and Commissioner Coleman with for our 2026 calendar that you'll be voting on in October or November. We have determined as staff, as this month we had these 3 ARC projects, and the time for the ARC to re-review and staff re-review and the applicant get those back. We have determined to set a specific date for the ARC. It'll have a specific date and time. It'll be on the submission calendar, and then there will be a cutoff date for the applicant to resubmit drawings if they want to that address those items from the ARC, so that we can continue to get the packet out on time. So I just wanted to give you all a little heads up, so when that comes up on the calendar next month, you won't be shocked. And I think it'll be very helpful for applicants and the ARC members not to have to go through trying to schedule a meeting.
Do you have an
Thank
idea?
you.
Yeah, that'll be good. Do you have an idea of what day of the week that'll be?
What we chose was the Thursday after the HRC meeting,
Okay.
to give the applicant a little time to digest and maybe sketch if they wanted to. I have it set for noon right now because that seems to be the easiest for everybody to get there, but we can certainly look at changing that when we adopt the calendar if y'all would like to.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you very much.
So, yeah, one last thing. So for the October meeting, I'll be out of town and we'll need to attend by Zoom. So we'll figure out how to arrange that.
I'll be back in town.
Okay, good.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll adjourn.
Kudos
Yay.
to the ARC. You guys saw a lot of projects and brought them back quickly, and those changes, you guys worked your magic. Kudos.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, that one on Baker made a hell of a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not think that was salvageable.